Okay, hello everyone. I'm Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy days for this training. I think some of you were on our training last fall when we were helping people use a simplified tax filing portal so that they could get their child tax credits. Code for America, which has made that tax portal, was working in all 50 states. And they did a report in January looking back at how it all went. And they actually highlighted Hawaii, specifically the Zoom meeting that we had last fall, because it appeared to generate a huge increase in people using the tax filing portal and getting their tax credits. And they actually highlighted it in their national report as one of the more successful events that they had across the entire nation. So we definitely thought, now that it's tax season again, and things are a little different than last fall, that we wanted to give you all an update and all the tools that you need to ensure that the people that you work with can get all the tax credits that they deserve and are qualified for. One thing that I just want to show you quickly is a webpage. I think, Ryan, if you could put it in the chat, the link. Just to let you know that we will be putting resources on our page over, after this Zoom and over the next few weeks if we get more things to show you, including some ads, social media ads and such that we are getting translated into a number of the languages that people use here. So just remember that we'll be having a Hawaii specific page where you can go just to find all the resources that you need to help people. And I will get you into the training quickly. We have Courtney O'Reilly with us, who was with us last fall. She's the Senior Program Manager for Tax Benefits at Code for America. And she's going to help us understand all the free tax filing options and free tax assistance that's available for folks. So Courtney, do you want to take it down?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you all for having me again. As Nicole mentioned, we were incredibly impressed by the work that was done after the Navigator training that took place last fall. We saw a huge spike in numbers for the immediate day and following next 4 or 5 days of just a couple of returns trickling in from a number of different organizations. So we just really appreciate the work that you did on the ground to connect families to this resource. It would not have been possible without your help. And so we're excited to come back here again today and just let you know about what this filing season looks like and beyond. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And perfect. All right. And so with this, just want to also introduce it for those of you who are unfamiliar with Code for America. We are a nonprofit organization that partners with government to strengthen the delivery of public services through human-centered technology. And to really kick off the overview of our services, I really wanted to start from the beginning and kind of how we got into some of this work. Back, at this point, 3 or 4 years ago, we were a bit slow to realize that there were billions of dollars missed each year due to tax benefits left on the table. And we wanted to do our best to try to help close that gap along with partners who have been in this work for quite literally decades. Our best estimate is at the time there were about 10.5 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars a year left on the table from just the earned income tax credit alone. Now, with the expansion of the child tax credit and the various stimulus payments, that amount is far greater. And this is a huge missed opportunity to advance economic justice. If so many families desperately needed that flexible cash, why were they missing out? And so we wanted to conduct some research with what are often referred to as non-filers in Colorado and California. And what we learned was that filing taxes alone is just a major barrier. That could be due to trust. Just trustworthy and affordable help is hard to find. Non-filers struggle to understand the ambiguous consequences of filing a tax return, and they may not understand that filing gets them that access to IRS benefits. I know when I encounter clients in the field, oftentimes if they hear they don't have to file a tax return, it seems like one less stressful thing they have to worry about with all of the limitations and the resources they have to begin with. And so explaining to them that there's actually a tremendous amount of benefits in filing taxes, it's not just a bad thing, it's actually can be a pretty good thing, is news to a lot of folks. And with all of that, we kind of came to this conclusion that outreach alone is just not enough to overcome these challenges, which is why we launched Get Your Refund in January of 2020. Get Your Refund helps low-income families file full tax returns through Vita services. And we'll get into a bit more details about that exact service in a couple of slides. But before that, also just want to help identify that through this work, we identified our North Star, which is closing the tax benefits participation gap, just by bringing new and intermittent filers into the filing season to claim all eligible benefits. And so last year, we took all of this work a step further by developing Get CTC, which I know Nicole already briefly mentioned, but just as a reminder, Get CTC was a simplified filing tool to help families claim the advance payments of the child tax credit and missing stimulus payments. This helped streamline the e-filing process for the CTC and stimulus eligible families that did not have a filing requirement. This was seen as an alternative to the IRS non-filer sign-up tool. It was mobile and user-friendly. It was available in English and Spanish. And then there was chat support from IRS certified volunteers available. It also referred complex cases to a Vita partner. So if somebody ended up in the Get CTC tool, they actually had a more complex case, they would be referred to our sort of flagship Vita portal, which is Get Your Refund. And this was all possible because of some revenue rules that were created in 2021. After doing this, and Nicole referred to our report, which is quite lengthy, but I just want to highlight a few key takeaways that made us feel pretty good about the product and about the work that you all were doing on the ground. And that was that simplified filing was a success. Even people who had never filed taxes before were able to use Get CTC, finish the process quickly, and find it relatively easy. It was so successful that it may have changed the calculus around tax benefits and outreach. When filing processes are difficult, outreach alone is not enough to generate returns, but with simplified filing, it actually can be. A couple of stats to back up why we came to that conclusion. So we had over 115,000 accepted returns nationally, and 78% of those found the tool easy or extremely easy, including those first-time filers. The typical experience was that people were able to finish in about 10 minutes on a mobile phone. 75% finished in 30 minutes. So most people were able to finish in less than 10, but over 3/4 of the folks that used the tool were able to do it in less than 30 minutes. And over 99% of the people who came to Get CTC did not require any additional assistance. With all of that being said, I do want to call out that Get CTC was a simple tool that is embedded in a really complicated system. Many clients that had questions or issues, and I think probably something that a lot of folks saw on the ground, was not necessarily related to simplified filing. So it might have been related to who gets to claim a dependent on a tax return, an issue with a return being rejected because somebody already filed on their behalf. Any number of things that can't be solved with simplified filing and need more hands-on assistance to actually get that return processed and the refund issued to them. And as I said before, this just sort of changes our ideas about outreach around this and what can be done by just everyday partners that maybe this is not their full-time job, this is just something on the side. When we know just a prod in the right direction may really make all the difference. And so while that was true for Get CTC last year, just wanted to call out sort of what's different this year. So first I want to start with just how tax credits are generally different this year and in a really positive way. So more people than ever are eligible to claim tax benefits. And quite honestly, I don't want to spend a ton of time going over the ins and outs of who qualifies for each of these credits, because quite frankly, we don't expect anybody to remember who qualifies for each of these things. We really just encourage people to send people to Get Your Refund or Get CTC so they can figure out if they qualify through either assistance from a Vita program, using software that will calculate it for them, or using our chat support so that the person on the other end of that chat can tell them yes or no, this is what you would qualify for. But do want to call out that the earned income tax credit is expanded, especially to people who don't have qualifying children. The amount has also basically tripled in what they qualify for this year. So it's important that we also get this news out to people who don't have children in their household. But for those who do have children in their households, there's also an expanded child and dependent care credit. So expenses that you're paying for childcare, for babysitters, for elder care, all of those things now generate a very large refund. So we want to make sure people are aware of them. And then the child tax credit, I pulled this out specifically because I think this is something that a lot of people don't really clearly understand because the messaging has been so odd. And that's that every eligible household that qualifies for the child tax credit must file a tax return to claim that full benefit. So I think a lot of people are aware that advance payments stopped. Last December was the last advance payment that families received. And when those payments stopped, a lot of families assumed, oh, I guess the bill didn't pass, or I guess this didn't continue. That was all I qualified for. When in actuality, they qualify for the second half of their payments. And the only way that they can get that is by filing a full tax return. And so whether they got advance payments or they never received any advance payments at all, filing a 2021 tax return helps them get access to the remaining credit that's due to them. But again, I think that's been generally lost in the communication. Just people felt that that was no longer available, something didn't pass, and there's nothing else they can do. We need to get them to think otherwise and get them to file a tax return. A couple of other things that are different this year is that simplified or express filing isn't available until May. So the tool that I came to tell you everything's so easy, all of those things, it's not available until May. And with the full filing process, which we'll get into in more detail, it definitely can cause additional barriers, and there's additional assistance needed for somebody to successfully be able to file that tax return. The need for assistance increases, and we know that most of that cannot be resolved by Vita alone. Vita, which stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, are organizations that work with the IRS to offer free tax filing assistance to low to moderate income families. And generally speaking, across the country, Vita is very limited in the capacity and how many people they can serve. And through conversations I've had with Nicole and others, I know that's even more so in Hawaii. And so we just want to call out that the assistance that currently exists just isn't enough, which is why we need to expand the assistance available to the most vulnerable families through what we've always called community navigators, but really it's just organizations that are working closely with families on other issues. And so getting into 2022 tax filing services that are available at getyourrefund.org, I am going to show a chart, and I'm just going to warn you, it can be a little overwhelming. We're only going to look at it for a little bit before we break it out into each section. And this is a chart that goes over all of our services that are available this year. We have a much easier, much less text-intensive chart at our website at Get Your Refund, where people can use active choice to choose which of these options they want to use. And it's, again, not as text heavy. This can feel a little overwhelming, but just wanted to let you know, kind of, there are 4 different services that are offered at Get Your Refund. And I'm just going to spend the next few minutes going over what each of those services are so that you have a sense of what they do and who might be best served by each of these. I'll say that each of these services have pros and cons, and I fervently believe there's no silver bullet in serving folks. And so we're just trying to give them the full scope of all the options available. So the first is what I had mentioned at the very beginning, and that's our Get Your Refund full service virtual Vita system that allows us to connect folks to, sorry, well, I just lost my notes. There it is. So that helps people get connected to Vita virtually. So basically, going through this, the process is clients complete a Get Your Refund application, and then they upload pictures of their ID and tax documents. That information is then routed to a Vita partner where they look through it, make sure everything looks right, and then sets up an intake call with that client. Over that call, they make sure they clarify information, they ask any follow-up questions, and then once they have everything they need, they end that call, and then a volunteer prepares their return on the back end, and a second volunteer reviews their return before calling the client again to review their completed return. The client then has the option to electronically sign, giving permission for that Vita site to transmit the return for them. A couple of things with this is that in order to qualify for this service through Get Your Refund, clients must make less than $66,000 a year. They can file not the current tax year, which is 2021, and prior year back to 2018. And the reason it's back to 2018 is 2018 is the last year folks can claim a refundable tax credit. So if they're due a refund back in 2018, they absolutely have to file that before April 18th in order to get access to that credit. So we're really encouraging people who haven't filed for a number of years to use this option. By filing through Vita, they're going to be filing a full federal and state tax return, so they can claim all eligible credits. But with that, the required information is a bit harder for most people. So in order to help them, Vita has to see a picture of their Social Security card or ITIN paperwork for every member of their household. We can't take it from a W-2. It can be a pretty burdensome thing for somebody to get us a picture of, but we have to see that. And then of course, the photos of all of their tax documents. The whole process takes about 2 to 3 weeks because of those 2 phone calls and all of the steps to make sure we have all the information needed. But it is a really good system for people who need ITIN application assistance. They need additional help from Vita sites. They just don't have the capacity to file their own tax return. This is a great service for that. And then similarly, we also have a Vita site location finder at our website, but talking with Nicole, I know the Hawaiʻi resource page that was just put in the chat has more up-to-date information for Hawaii. It can take the IRS a while to update Vita site information. And so sometimes the information on this website can be a bit out of date. So I'd strongly encourage you to go to the Hawaiʻi resource page to see what in-person Vita sites are available near your location. If there aren't any, that's when you really want to use the virtual Vita option. Then, and this one is a bit more controversial in the sense that I think a lot of people have a lot of doubts in its usefulness, and that's our File Myself option. So the File Myself option sends clients to a free tax filing software. In this case, it's TaxSlayer, but you can think of it as other free commercial tax products that are out there, but it has to remain free, which is always nice. By using File Myself, they don't have to worry about Vita's limited capacity. And they don't have to worry about what time volunteers are available. They don't have to worry about uploading a picture of their Social Security card and ID. All of those things make this a bit more accessible for folks. And generally speaking, most people are able to finish the process in less than an hour. With this, the income threshold is also a bit higher. So the filing threshold for this is under $73,000. So if somebody doesn't qualify for virtual or for the Get Your Refund or in-person Vita, this might be the next best option. Some caveats with this or some limitations is that it only can file the current tax year, so tax year 2021. In that year, people will be able to file their federal and state returns. They can claim all eligible benefits. They don't need that Social Security card or ITIN paperwork, but they need to know the number, and then they need their tax documents to file an accurate return. I think this is one of those resources where a lot of people think that tax filing is really complicated. And for some it is. And that's why we want Vita to be there to give that extra assurance, to really help people through. But I think for most people, we know across the country, 50% of people are already paying to get software to file their own tax return. This is that, but just free. And so we want to try to convert a lot of folks to just giving this a try and testing this out. I have a couple of ways on how you can support somebody in doing this process, even if you are not a tax expert, and we do not expect you to be a tax expert. And then finally, the tool that we've already mentioned a few times, which is Get CTC. We think this is the best option for low-income families that face barriers to filing a full tax return. So we recommend that any significant amount of outreach to people who haven't filed a tax return for a number of years may wait till it comes closer to when Get CTC can be available. Now, it's important that we want to push filing a full tax return whenever possible, but for those who aren't going to be successful in it, sending them directly to Get CTC may be the best option. A couple of things about Get CTC. So I already mentioned it's going to be launching sometime in May of this year, and it'll be open at least through October 15th. So even though tax filing season will come to an end, they still have a couple of months to go through this process in order to claim their remaining child tax credit and their third stimulus payment. Something I've noticed with pointing people to Get CTC, we know there's some hesitation from folks knowing that, oh, well, then they'll miss out on the earned income tax credit and all these other things. Yes, they will. And that's why we want to push people to full filing. But for some people, that's just not going to be possible. The burden of filing a full tax return is just too great. And at least in my opinion, it's better to get families something than nothing, to build some trust and faith in the process that you did something, you got money for it. Now let's see how we can expand that and get you all of your tax benefits. So that's something that's maybe just my opinion. I think our team is pretty aligned on that, but that's something that I just wanted to share because I know there's a bit of controversy over this. As I mentioned earlier, the length of time to filing this is just 15 minutes. They don't need to upload any tax documents. They just need to know their basic information in order to complete that and file. We do still have chat support available. So if anybody runs into questions or has issues, there's going to be a tax certified volunteer who can help answer those questions. So as I mentioned, filing a full tax return is the hope. But with filing a full tax return, outreach alone is not enough. With express filing, outreach may be enough. Of course, there's going to be some folks that need some additional assistance, but generally speaking, that's how we should be thinking about these two pieces of outreach. And just to kind of emphasize again that some filers may be, as I change the page before I'm ready, some filers may be disgruntled by the hurdles of filing a full tax return and give up. And so we want to make sure to reach out to them that this is a different tool. So if they've already been reached using Get Your Refund and it didn't work, when Get CTC becomes available, just explaining that it is a different tool and most people can get through it. All right, and so flipping the script a bit, and I'm sorry, I know I just covered a lot of information, but kind of want to flip this and share a few ideas about how you can help clients access these benefits. And in order to understand how you can help them access these benefits, I want to call out some of the challenges or barriers that go along with each of these things, and then how you can address some of those challenges or barriers. So the first is just deciding to file. And with deciding to file, there are a couple of challenges that come with that. So as we mentioned at the beginning, misconceptions about filing. So just who gets to file? Why would I want to file? I haven't filed for years. Won't I get in trouble for filing now? Some of those things can help with just some encouragement by somebody saying, oh, actually, there's new benefits. If you didn't have a filing requirement, you won't be in trouble for filing all of a sudden now. And then once they may have made the decision that, okay, maybe it's a good idea to file, they're unsure how to file. They're going to be constantly berated with options of how to pay for somebody to help them file or pay for a software that might add on some predatory lending practices, all of those things. And so we want to make sure that we can give them access to free and trustworthy services. The next thing might be having trouble accessing required documents, whether that be tax documents, information related to any advance payments they received of the stimulus or child tax credit. All of those things might create some anxiety that on-the-ground navigators can actually help in a really big way to get over some of those barriers. And then once they've decided to file, what are the challenges related to working with Vita? So for one, with Get Your Refund full service, there's a good amount of healthy skepticism and fear related to a virtual product. I know if I didn't work so closely with Code for America and Get Your Refund, and I was on a website that asked me to take a picture of my social security card and upload it, I would absolutely say no, and that would not be appropriate. But realistically, Code for America has done all of the work to try to make this as secure of a process as possible. IRS Vita sites on the back end are used to seeing this type of sensitive information and know the steps to make sure information stays secure. Having somebody say, yes, this is a legitimate site, this is protected, this is the process is just does so much to help people actually successfully finish this process. It's also just helping them complete their Get Your Refund questions. They might just not be sure. I know when I've watched clients go through it, those that aren't as familiar with using technology, they might not know that they have to scroll down to hit something like next, that they answered it and the screen didn't go away. And so it's something about just navigating that page. Uploading clear pictures. When somebody is using their smartphone and they're filling out this application at night because that's the only time that they get, sometimes we get a lot of blurry, dark pictures that make it really hard for us to complete that tax return. So helping them upload clear pictures of the full tax document, again, they're just going to be more successful in finishing the process if they have that extra bit of help. And then helping them understand what comes next. Great, they just uploaded all of this sensitive information. How do I know what's going to happen next? Who should I hear from? What are the next steps? All of those things are a tremendous value if you can help provide some of that assurance and guidance. With in-person Vita, it's mostly just finding a tax site that fits their schedule and needs, and if appropriate, making an appointment or setting those expectations. So it sounds like, again, I haven't done too much research into this, but just in a conversation with Nicole, she mentioned that all of them are drop-off appointments. So just setting the expectation that you're going to have to go, you'll be there to drop off your materials, you'll leave, and then your return will be completed at a separate time. That helps people just set better expectations to understand what they're getting into. And then for both of these, again, just accessing tax and ID documents can be a tremendous amount of help because so many people have a hard time getting access to those documents. And then with the file myself option, I touched on this briefly, but I think just in general, a fear of filing their own tax return. You know, there's an entire industry that has put a lot of money into making this seem much more complicated than it is. And I think just assuring people that they can try this to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then they can stop and it's done. And they're back in the same place that they were. But that way they're spending at least 20 to 30 minutes trying something before they spend hours or weeks trying to do it a different way. Again, accessing tax documents and adjusted gross income. So for those of you who haven't ever filed a tax return on your own, you usually have to enter last year's income as a way to verify your identity. If the person didn't file last year, not a problem. It's not something they're going to have to enter. And then with this, just access to a computer, time, and space. We know that even though the tax software is mobile friendly, it's a lot of screens to go through on your mobile phone, and using a computer could, again, just be a huge help. Also finding just the time and space to comfortably prepare those tax returns when we know a lot of low to moderate income households may not have that available. And then just unsure if they're doing it right. And that's where we have tax experts on the back end that they can chat with or email for support. We have that, and we just want to make sure they're aware of those resources. And then with getting started with Get CTC or Express. Just like with filing software, they're going to need to access their last year's adjusted gross income if they filed. If not, we'll take care of that for them. And then any advanced child tax credit payments received. So when filing this year, if a family received any advance payments in 2021, they have to report exactly how much they received in order for their return to be quickly processed. And the IRS sent letters about this, but we know some of those letters didn't make it to their intended recipient, that those things get lost. It comes in a nondescript envelope that often gets tossed by people. So just helping them figure out how to find that information online. And then just waiting for Get CTC or Express. So it might just be explaining to them, another tool will be available. Here's where you can sign up for a notification, a text message, letting them know when that tool becomes available. And then other issues that can't be resolved by simplified filing. We know that that is an issue when people try to use a simplified tool and it doesn't work, just making sure that they have clear information. And then after filing, some other challenges or barriers that come up is if a return is rejected and what they need to do, or they filed, their return was accepted, and it's been 2 months and they haven't seen a refund, helping them understand why that might be or what steps they can take to try to track where that refund is. A lot of families also receive an IRS notification after the fact. And so we want to help them understand what that IRS notification means, and generally not a good idea to ignore it, even though it can feel overwhelming and scary. So as I was alluding to with these barriers, there's a lot of ways to provide assistance to overcome those challenges. The first is just providing awareness and trust building, why they should file, how to file, and understanding those options, which we spent a good amount of time talking about today. Acquiring documents. I don't want to go into this too much, but we do have resources to help understand what documents they actually need, how to request things like a replacement social security card or ITIN paperwork, how to access copies of their tax documents. I mentioned that clients need to enter their advanced child tax credit payments, and there's a couple of ways that they can get that information, and they may just need additional assistance to do so, and how to find that 2020 adjusted gross income if they filed a tax return last year and are using the File Myself option or the Get CTC option. We also have specific guides and tutorials on how to set up a File Myself support site. So, I've already kind of gone over why we promote File Myself. It's helps them claim all eligible federal and state credits. It's generally a simple process for most low to moderate income households, and there are no capacity restrictions. So we're not limited by the number of volunteers that are available that week. It's available for everybody. But we do know that there's a need for support sites, and these do not have to be Vita sites. They can be any organization. I would love to see libraries or community resource centers, anything that has access to computers to be able to offer what we've called a support site. And those support sites can really just bring awareness. There are countless free tax software options promoted to low-income households, but they rarely stay free. And so just having a clear link to where they can get that free access. Giving folks computer access so that they can complete it in a safe space that gives them access to a computer. And then a referral to tax experts. So again, you don't need to be that tax expert on the ground. We don't expect that. But we have chat support at Get Your Refund. So if they run into problems, somebody can be there to help. We've also created step-by-step guides that if you want to have up on the computer or print out, so somebody while going through it can just go step-by-step what they should enter and some best practices. I think that's kind of the number one thing this is the number one ask that I have is helping with these support sites. I think it's the best way to help the largest amount of people get all of their tax benefits. But there's also the ability to become a Get Your Refund support site. So helping people get access to virtual Vita. As we know, with virtual Vita, outreach alone just isn't enough. And virtual Vita through Get Your Refund just helps expand Vita's reach. So if an in-person tax site is not accessible because where it's located is hard to get to, there's not one in their area, their appointment times are all filled, or their times are just gone. At this point, they're shut down. This will help them get access to still existing Vita sites to prepare full tax return. Vita sites can also provide that prior year and ITIN assistance. And ways that support sites can help is really through access and assistance through bridging that digital divide. So whether that's giving access to tablets, Wi-Fi, computers, whatever it may be, it's a lot easier to do it on tablets. I would say that's my number one recommended tech for this, because you have to take pictures and fill something out online. But phones are just as easy. They just may need help accessing Wi-Fi to be able to upload those documents. And then just assistance, just helping them build that trust, go through the screens one by one, all of those things. And then understanding next steps, as we already addressed. To get started in this way, I want to just kind of address that there are no required certification or training to be able to offer this type of assistance. What I would say is just decide what types of assistance you want to offer. You can always add on more as needed. So if you're just interested, printing some flyers, letting people know about the service, that's amazing. And that's already just building that trust is huge, and we appreciate that. But if you want to go a bit more, just kind of scope that out, figure out what works best, not only for you, but what's going to be of most value to the clients that you serve. And then identify other partners who are equipped to make the needs. I think this is a great starting place of having a coalition like this together to talk through who is best situated to offer each of these types of assistance. You can also sign up for Navigator updates. I have the link in there, but I can also put it in the chat as soon as I'm done. There you can also request a unique URL so that you can track your referrals. So you can actually report saying, this is how many people we helped through the process. This is what happened to them after we helped them get onto this tool. We can track all of that information. And then just know what you can and can't do. And the big thing is you can provide access and assurance. Shouldn't be providing tax advice. Let's leave that to the people who've gone through all that training and feel confident that they're giving that right information. And then just familiarizing yourself with the resources. We have a number of resources at our Navigator page. We have the chat assistant. So if ever you're curious about something, you hear something from a client and you're not 100% sure, you can reach out to us on chat. You can also reach out to your local Vita or other outreach programs. And then just kind of getting into it. It just takes that leap. It can be scary, but strongly encourage you to do it. We've also put together a list of additional metrics. We know sometimes the service you're providing isn't necessarily going to result in a filed accepted tax return. It may be a couple of steps before they're able to do that. It may be helping them get access to documents, understanding a letter that they received from the IRS. We think all of that assistance is just as valuable. We just can't track it. And so we strongly encourage, if you're going to do this, or if you seek out a grant to do this, or whatever that looks like, here are some metrics we would really strongly propose that you suggest as part of the outcomes that are meaningful to the clients you're serving. And then finally, just want to call out where our resources are, and that's at getctc.org/navigators. There you can find chat assistance, you can find guides for File Myself stations. I believe we have it. I'm thinking that actually some of these resources are coming online at the end of the week. So if you go there and you're like, hey, she promised me other things, they're not there, give it a week, it'll be up there. But you can also email me on my next slide. You can email us, I should say, and ask for some of those resources ahead of time if you don't see them online. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and open it up to any questions that folks may have. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Courtney. That was amazing. I learned so much. One thing to just note to people is that we will be posting updates from the Get CTC page at our resource page as well. So if you don't want to have to get emails from Courtney's people, we'll be putting stuff on the Hawaiʻi page to make it easier for folks here. I do have one question about the getyourrefund.org page. Does that help people figure out which service is best for them?
Oh, Nicole, thank you so much. That was definitely in my notes and I clearly skipped it. Yes, so when they go to get your refund, there is an active choice page that kind of gives them some scenarios and tries to help them choose. But there are also, if they click Get Started when they first land there, they'll be asked about 4 to 5 questions to try to give a couple of good recommendations of what service A they're eligible for and B that might work best for them depending on how they answer that question. So if somebody's unsure, I would strongly recommend using that what we call a triage tool to try to get people to the right level of service.
Does anyone else have questions for Courtney? Well, I guess you did such a good job, Courtney.
Please feel free, something that I feel like so many times when I watch these types of presentations, it's a lot to take in, kind of have to go back, settle a bit and figure out what I even have to ask. So feel free, we love to hear from you, what's helpful, what additional information can we provide or create, and just let me know if there's anything else I can do after this training.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, we can let everyone go a little early. We're getting some thank yous in the chat. Okay, I guess we'll call it. Thanks again, Courtney, for taking the time to talk to us again.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody.